Welcome back. Here we are with another episode of the podcast, and we have a name. This is exciting. Although the name is not that exciting. It's the Nicola Graham podcast with the tagline "Fit and Unfiltered," because what I'm promising to deliver is conversations that are more than just the best foods to eat, the best exercises to do. You know, I want to talk about the things that we are struggling with. Like, why is all of that stuff so hard to just pin down? I've spoken about this with a client this week, you know, the calories and all of that kind of stuff. Like, when you look at it on paper, it should be so easy, but it's life around that gets in the way. Motherhood, you know, the curveballs that are thrown on a daily basis. If you're just trying to manage a household, you've got a partner, you've got a family, you've got a job, we've got this voice in our head who's like a whole other person that we've got to manage as well. So we want to talk about it all. And yeah, it's taken a while to come up with a name that maybe conveys a little of that. So without further ado, we are going to talk about on this episode those little nuances, those little lifestyle habits, behaviours that are sabotaging your progress. And you know what? Half of the time we don't even realise that we're doing it. So I have written down my notes. I am going to try and stay on course to some sort of format, although again I am your girl that's going to go off on a tangent. Ladies, bear with. I always like to give the context and like the ins and outs of why these things are important, and this comes from like my own experience working with clients. Like I was speaking with a woman the other day, and like we were talking about, okay, but what do we want to get out of this? Because we don't just want that result before the holiday or before the special occasion. Like, we are talking about levelling up in a way here that when you look back in 12 months, you don't recognise yourself. You are living a totally different lifestyle, and you're feeling good on a daily basis, not just on a special occasion, and you understand how to manage that and you understand how to sustain that. And it's like, it's unlocking different levels of yourself, and that's what I want to talk about, because that's what is achievable for all of us. This, even me showing up and doing this podcast, I believe is me unlocking a new layer to, like a new level to myself in order for me to reach my goals. Okay, let me come back to the notes, because this one, I am so passionate about this, and it sounds so silly, but I genuinely believe that this is a hardwired habit and behaviour that most of us are in, that we don't realise is sabotaging our progress. And that is that we have been told from a young age to finish all of the food on the plate. And hear me out on this one, because, and again, as always, these are all going to link into each other. But how many of us were brought up, okay, to finish all of the food on your plate? Hear me out on why this is sabotaging your results, ladies, because first of all, if you've been brought up to follow that cue, you do not stop eating until all the food's gone on your plate. First of all, you are not listening to your body. Okay, you're going against your body's satiety cues, like stop eating now and full. That's not what we've been taught. We've been taught you don't stop eating until all the food is gone on your plate. And one of the things that I do inside of my community, and one of the things that I really had to work on this. If instantly you're listening to this and you're thinking, oh yeah, that was me as a kid, like couldn't leave the table, couldn't have your dessert until all of the food was finished, couldn't put the telly on until all the food was finished, whatever it might be, you'll instantly relate to this. Try it next time you're eating a meal. Put your cutlery down. Like, just acknowledge, do I feel relatively full? Do I feel good? Like, have I got what I need? Oh, sorry, it's my phone ringing. Then try and leave the remaining food on the plate and watch how uncomfortable that feels. It is wild. Like, it genuinely feels uncomfortable because you've been brought up. I'm trying to do this with my kids. So my kids know they stop eating when they're full. Okay, it's bit me on the bum a couple of times, obviously, because mummy knows best and we know that they need to eat a little bit more of that pasta or whatever it might be. Otherwise, they're going to be hungry again in 10 minutes' time. But at the same time, I see this struggle with the majority of women that I work with. You know the habit that we're in where we eat the food off the kids' plates before we bin it? before we bin it, okay? We don't bin it, we eat it. Or there'll be scraps left around, or you're in a buffet situation and there's food in front of you and you just eat it and you don't know when to stop. Because from a young age, honestly, just think about it from a young age, and this habit, I don't know if it's a habit and it's a behaviour, it's sabotaging our progress and we don't realise. But if you think about every time food is in front of me, I must eat it until the food is gone, essentially, is what we've been brought up to do. So yeah, I'm trying to teach my kids to listen to their bodies, and so they will push back against me. I'll say, kids, come on, eat a little bit more now. We're not going out, we're not going in the garden yet or whatever. Mum, you've told us to tell you when we're full, and we're full, is what they say to me. And I'm thinking, okay. But I want them to understand that, because otherwise what happens over time is we continue to override our natural satiety, which is a hormone, it's hormone regulation. We're basically going against it. And so, but it's hardwired from a young age. So that is the first one. And that is like the practical takeaway from that is, next time you are eating a meal, genuinely stop and think. Especially if we're in a restaurant and we're paying for that meal. We have to eat it all. But it's wild, isn't it? Because it's coming at the cost of us going against, we're full, and the goal is fat loss. So it's wild because it totally goes against the goal. And I believe it's a big struggle. And then that brings me on to the second one, which is the habit that we are in when it comes to portion sizes. And here's why I want to talk about this one, because when okay, let's just relate it to fat loss, okay? And you're trying to drop your calories and instantly we think, it means I'm not going to be able to have that chocolate bar at 3 o'clock or whatever. We instantly think of we've got to drop our calories by 200, let's say, for example, okay? We instantly think of an item of food throughout the day that we can no longer have. And we always, I don't know why we do this, or is it just me? We think of the food that we know is kind of a bit of an indulgence. And in our minds, we're like, I'm going to have to sacrifice that. And it instantly then just becomes, we're putting ourselves into a battlefield before we even start. Instead of just thinking, okay, but 200 calories, if I just reduce my portion size slightly across my 3 meals of the day by 70 calories, okay, which is probably what? 2-3 mouthfuls of food. There's my 200 calories less. I could just literally reduce the portion size of the existing meals that I'm eating, so I can still eat in the same way, maybe with a smaller portion, which I can probably manage, because realistically, I'm only eating that full portion size because I've trained my brain to finish all of the foods on the plate. So portion sizes is a big one. It's a habit that we're in. I notice this when I plate up food. I am the chef of the house. I don't know if anyone else does this, but me and my husband often, we get the exact same meal. Maybe there's a little bit of a difference, but his goals are not the same goals as mine. And so we then wonder, but why am I finding this so hard? But the other important one on this is, if you are someone who eats out a lot, this is another common struggle as to why you might find it harder to drop body fat. Yes, okay, there's hidden calories and all the rest of it in restaurant food or grab and go food, but also as well, it's you're not giving yourself the portion that suits you. The restaurant is dictating. So let's say, for example, you go into a restaurant, there's 50 people sat down, every single person orders fish and chips. Every single person in the restaurant is getting the same plate of fish and chips, regardless of whether there's, the little petite woman over there, the double XL man over there. Everyone is getting given the same portion and eating the same portion. So it's just something to be aware of. I don't think we highlight this. This is the thing, is that we're getting given the right foods to eat and the right ways to, get our steps and get our exercise. And then without realising it, we're eating out 3 times a week, or, we're plating up meals at the end of the day and we're not realising that, okay, I just need to look at some of these little things to make life easier for myself, rather than it feeling like doom and gloom. So yeah, a really good one, especially if you are trying to drop your calorie intake, is just literally just reduce your portion size, and then get really good at listening to when you are full. stopping eating when you're full. Those two habits in and of themselves can just make it a hell of a lot easier. And what you'll do over time is you'll be so much better attuned to listening to your body that eventually it doesn't feel like a restriction, it doesn't feel like a deficit. It just becomes more of a, intuitive eating, I suppose. Okay, this one is, I think this is a big one and it relates to all areas of life. It's not just the diet, but it is definitely sabotaging your progress on some level, and it could be progress in any area of life. And it is that you are saying yes when you mean to say no. Because what you are really struggling with is, it's not managing your calories, it's not all of that other stuff. You just struggle with setting boundaries. And so you think the struggle is that you haven't got time, but what you really struggle with is carving out time for yourself, because you don't feel worthy of doing that, because you feel like you have to say yes to everyone else before you can say yes to yourself. And ladies, we've got to put the brakes on this, honestly. And yeah, you're going to feel guilty, it's going to feel selfish, all of those things that, like, God forbid we put ourselves first, but we have got to do it. We've got to start doing it, because I tell you what, for a start, the demands from our boss, from our kids, like, I don't know if anyone else has, like, my kids' admin, I was having a chat with a mum at the school this morning about this. My kids' admin is like a job in itself. Paying for all the clubs, remembering when everything needs to be done. They've gone into school today and it was school photo day. I remember this last night when they were in bed. I was like, oh, I haven't washed hair. We had to get up this morning, run a bath. Couldn't do quick showers. That would be better, but that would have just been a 10-minute battle. And I'm like, okay, they could be in the bath in that 10 minutes, so let's just roll with it. I had to get up early this morning, do the whole stressful routine of, like, bath and wash hair before school. But that's just because, like, life is just demanding from all areas. This was last night in bed, I remembered this. And so the demands and the amount that we've got to keep up with is not going to change. We just need to get really comfortable saying yes to ourselves and that being okay. And you know what, if it causes a bit of a knee jerk, sometimes, like, I'm working with a client at the moment, and one of the things that, like, we established, like, early on in working together is that her husband, and I'm sure we'll all relate to this, ladies, but her husband's got a great life. Like, he's at the gym every morning, he's doing this, he prioritises his goals. But you know what, part of me, I said to her, like, but good on him, because you give him the freedom to do that. So if you're now in a situation where you have zero time for yourself because all of the free time between you as a partnership, as like mum and dad, is allocated to him, but you've allowed that, then that's not him, that's a you problem. Like, you need to say, okay, we need to just sit back down and figure out how I can be worked into this equation, because up until this point it's worked for me, but now I need to find time for myself, because guess what, I'm not happy when I open that wardrobe and nothing fits, and I want to be the one on the family photograph, not the one taking it all the time, because I'm too ashamed to stand next to you and the kids. And so part of that is going to feel uncomfortable initially. Everything worth doing feels uncomfortable initially. But this can be taking on too much at work. It can be, I don't know, it just plays into all areas of life. We say yes, we mean no. So the struggle is not time. The struggle is really understanding, okay, where do I actually need to carve out time for me here, and be okay with that upsetting someone else, or be okay with the kids being left with daddy, or whatever else it might be. I'm referring to my notes here because I'm looking down, I'm thinking, I don't know what I meant by this note. I've put, behaviour patterns from our parents. I know I put this because, again, and this relates back to my first episode. Sometimes this is what we've seen our own mum do. We've seen our own mum put everything on the line to be the martyr, essentially. But we want more for ourselves. Don't forget, if you're listening to this podcast, I know that you want more for yourself. And you also want your kids to see you in a different light. You want your kids to see you fit, strong, healthy, taking care of yourself. That's going to require time in your day for yourself. Doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be the same allocated amount of time every day, but it has to be in there. And actually, when we talk about our mental health, this is this is another big component of like being able to better manage that, is being able to create boundaries and know when, okay, I've got to prioritise myself here. It also helps to have accountability. Again, I've referenced a lot of the conversations that I have with my clients, because the first step in helping them create boundaries is, okay, let's bring in some accountability here. So you're saying you're going to do it, but I actually want you to come back to me and let me know how it went and how you felt afterwards, and you know what you achieved in that time that you carved out for yourself. Because it feels scary, and it doesn't matter if we're grown women and we've got kids and we should know how to do all of these things. It can still feel scary at times, and that's okay. I've just had to have an absolute pep talk again today about just getting out of my own way, and you know, getting certain things that I know are going to help me achieve my goals, just getting them done, and that's okay. Ooh, this one I think is going to maybe trigger some people, maybe. And also it's the one thing that we know we do, and it's like an addiction. We cannot break the cycle of scrolling late at night. And honestly, this is the biggest energy drainer, time consuming like habit and behaviour that we are in. It's sabotaging our results. Like, it is genuinely. And I'll tell you how I know this, because whenever I commit, and it's only ever for like small increments of time, because I also am down a rabbit hole of a night more often than I'd like to admit. And we convince ourselves though, don't we, that it's like we're catching up on, like, you know, friends, or I'll go online to look at something for the kids again. I mean, I'm doing my kids admin of a night, so I'm ordering bloody jazz pumps and the brownie unit, whatever else it is. I'm doing all that of a night. Then before you know it, I'm looking at the latest recipe or whatever it is. I don't know. Also, I've got to say, it can be quite an emotional roller coaster. I'm talking about it being like a saboteur of our time, but like, men may not relate to this. Women, I'm sure you will. It actually feels quite stupid saying it out loud. How many times have you gone online in a completely neutral mode, like you've just literally gone on for a little scroll for like a little bit of downtime, because like the wild thing is it's now become our downtime, and you've ended up in tears because you've been shown something by the algorithm that is either really disturbing to watch, or it's really upsetting, or you're reading someone's post and it's someone who you know and it's something that they're going through and it's really upsetting, and we almost feel like you know, we're not being our most compassionate selves if we don't read right to the end. And then before you know it, you're in tears, like reading a post online. And it can work in the opposite direction. Obviously, it can be something that makes us laugh, and then you're sharing it, and then you're sending it to all your friends, and then you're in a conversation, and before you know it, either way, we are trapped by our devices. But it's sabotaging our results, because it's keeping us up later than would be optimal for our health. It's also wreaking havoc with our hormones, not just for the tears, but also just like circadian rhythm and everything else that I'm sure you've heard lots of information about. But it's taking our time. Like, the biggest struggle for most of us is that we don't have time to prioritise ourselves. We don't have time to prep the meals. We're not in the right headspace to get our gym kit out for the morning, because we've got all of these stresses and worries, which we've just added to, by the way, by going on our phone or checking our emails or whatever it is that we convince ourselves we need to do. But this habit alone, and start small. So I started by keeping the phone out of the bedroom, which I know a lot of people are just in the habit of doing. Like, we take our phone to bed because we use it for our alarm. Like, God forbid someone texts us in the middle of the night and they might need us. Like, we keep ourselves available 24/7. So stopped taking the phone upstairs at all about 12 months ago. Game changer for me, because my husband falls asleep the minute his head hits the pillow. So I would then just think, I'll quickly just order that face cream or whatever. Before you know it, I'm like, again, either online shopping and spending a fortune in the middle of the night, which is not productive, but just generally just like looking at my screen before bed, and then not understanding why I'm like clenching my teeth in the night. Or does anyone else grind their teeth in the night? Because I do, and it's always related to Well, it's often related to if I've just been on a screen too late. But yeah, stop taking your phone up the stairs and then slowly start to give yourself a curfew. And like, again, it feels uncomfortable. So I spoke about this recently on socials. I just started to substitute one thing with another and decided that I was going to be that woman that like spends a little bit of time doing skincare before bed, which again, like ladies, we know this makes us feel good. Like rather than just getting a quick wash and getting into bed, like we take a little bit of time, and our phone is not even on the same floor and the house alarm's on, so I'm definitely not going back downstairs to get it. But it's really beneficial. It's beneficial for the quality of your sleep. The quality of your sleep knocks on to your hormone regulation, you know, your mood, your energy levels. That then impacts your decisions around food, your ability to get the training in, your performance in the training, your recovery afterwards. So it's this whole like domino effect that started with, okay, I just got out of the habit of scrolling on my phone till all hours in the morning. I also think just having a plan for yourself can help on that front, because if you've got a plan for yourself, you know, okay, I'm getting up early in the morning, I've got a workout scheduled at 6 a.m, whatever else it might be. By default, you just have to bring your habits into line the night before. So having a plan, whether or not you're working with a coach, just create a plan for yourself. You know, like, this is another thing that's just, it baffles me, but we all do it. And I definitely also do it. We have a plan for the kids. How many of you still make lunch for the hubby for the next day? I bet you some of you do. I don't anymore, although I did used to. Again, the guilt of like bad wife, but I'm just like, it is what it is. If you want lunch for tomorrow, you're going to have to make it, because I've got other things that I need to prioritise. But like for the kids, we schedule everything for them. They've got their lunches ready, they've got everything laid out. And then we don't do it for ourselves, which is wild. So just having a bit of a plan for yourself, rather than just letting that little device hijack our time. Okay, I also want to talk about weekend traditions. And I know that this is like a little bit of a checklist again, and I don't want this podcast to be that format where I'm just coming on here and going, these are the top 5 whatevers. You know, I want it to be more conversational. I want to talk about the nuances, but I also know that you ladies want results and you are banging your head against the brick wall, because why is it? I'm looking online and it's working for this person and this person, and why am I finding it so hard? Why is it not sticking for me? Why can't I stop eating late at night? Why am I not waking with like the bags of energy or whatever else it might be? It's these like little things that you're doing that, again, the scroller on your phone, that's not even you eating late at night, but it's impacting all of the other things that matter in order to get that result and to get it in a way that feels good. Weekend traditions. Now, I think most of us know that, like, by default of a weekend, we eat slightly differently, maybe we move slightly differently, we stay up a bit later of a night. Routine just changes of a weekend. So it is the biggest crux. It is like I think it's the biggest struggle for most people. But some of the habits and the behaviours that you're in around the weekend, I would argue that you're on autopilot. And actually, if we just had like a conscious weekend of like, okay, I'm just going to go into this weekend with a plan. I'm not going to allow it to feel like Monday to Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'm just going to do a 7-day stint. I would argue that some of the habits and behaviours you could live without, or we could just put more of like a healthy, positive spin on. You know, and it could just be the fact that, like, by default, you didn't wear your fitness watch of a weekend, so you've got no accountability around your general movement, or you don't prioritise movement of a weekend because it's just not, like, there's no time. You know, you've got the kids 24/7 and the kids' schedules are, like, maxed out, so you can't prioritise yourself of a weekend, but you also have a traditional takeaway and a traditional bottle of wine. So you do double whammy at the weekend. You stop moving as much, and you also double up on calorie intake, and the quality of those calories is a little bit questionable because, you know what, it's a takeaway and it's a bottle of wine, but you know what, it's okay because it's only one meal. And so again, like, we're rationalising in our mind how how this is acceptable because Monday, Friday is so on the money. But think about how that could look a bit differently. The result that we would get from just making those couple of changes around the weekend. So yeah, I've made a couple of notes on like simple ones that I would recommend. Okay, is like, first of all, just having a structure around your meals, your non-negotiables. I've not spoken about this yet on the podcast, but your non-negotiables are, I believe, should just be 5 things that you can do no matter where you are, no matter if the kids are off school, in school, you're in work, you're under stress, whatever it is. Just 5 things on a daily basis that you can check off no matter what. So like, it could be you start your day with a pint of water, you start your day with, I don't know, like some gratitude or some positive affirmations, which I know sounds a bit woo. Some of you will be totally into that, some of you will be thinking, okay, that's not me. Take it from me, this is just you getting in the driver's seat of your self-talk, is what affirmations is of a morning, okay? Because we wake up, instantly, thoughts chattering away. A lot of the time, 99.9% of the time, it's autopilot chatter. You're just going to interrupt that chatter, okay, with, you might want to read through your current goals, you might want to read through, some affirmations or do some gratitude. Maybe like one of your non-negotiables is that you start your day with protein. You always start your day with protein, no matter what. That is a non-negotiable, because you know that once you've achieved success with that first meal, it's going to be so much easier then to commit to everything else that you've promised yourself for the whole rest of the day, because the first meal is the hardest. And also, if you're in that all or nothing mindset, if you can commit to those first few actions of the day, it just sets you up. It sets you up like you've already sort of like ate the frog, or whatever the term is. But yeah, weekend traditions. I'm trying to think if anything else jumps out at me that's not like the takeaway in the glass of wine and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, sometimes we consciously make those decisions, and that's okay, and that's part of it. But again, it's the habit of like, if the bottle of wine gets opened, the whole thing gets drunk, instead of you just being able to go, okay, I'm gonna have a plan for this weekend, and it's gonna look like 1 glass of wine, and it's gonna look like I don't know, a Sunday morning, get up early and walk before the kids wake, whatever it might be. But look at your weekend. If you know that you're currently like stalling on your results, you feel like you're checking all of the boxes, definitely Monday to Friday at least. Have a look at some of the routines that you're in of a weekend. One of the things that I spoke about on a previous episode was just, that habit of like looking at menus and stuff ahead of time. And like, again, I was chatting with a client the other day, and she was saying, yeah, well, we go to this place on a Sunday, and I always get like the pancake stack, like, and it's just our favourite place to go. And I was like, okay, send me over the menu, like, let's look if there's something different that maybe like still works, that you'll enjoy, but it's not going to be like your entire calorie goal for the whole day set on like 1 plate of food. And transpires it wasn't, because it was mousse coffee, so everything on there was like, drenched in maple syrup. And I was like, okay, but why could we not just change the place that you go? Like, if we know that we're working on instilling better habits and better behaviours, and you've already told me that you want your kids to eat better, and you've already told me your husband could do with losing a couple of pounds, why don't we just change the place that you go? We don't have to scrap the tradition of going out for family brunch on a Sunday. I think that's a great idea. But why don't we go somewhere that maybe, you could go for a walk afterwards with your coffee, or we could get something that's, just a little bit more aligned with your new, healthier way of living. And she was like, oh, but the kids love this and the kids love that. And I was like, no, hang on. You are definitely at this moment in time now just making excuses as to why you can't change. Because you can change, because the kids will enjoy wherever they go. I'm sure part of what they love is just being out with mummy and daddy. And so it's even just that. It's even just stepping back. And this is a mindset, isn't it? This is the mindset that we're in. That like, we can't change anything that is part of like family tradition, or something that we've always done with friends, or something that like always happens in the workplace, or whatever it is. And sometimes we can't. But I would argue that most of the time, if we wanted it to change, if we truly wanted it to change, We could. We just don't want the discomfort of that, like, first week where we've got to choose something differently or go somewhere differently or get out of our comfort zone, or it mightn't feel the same as, like, honestly, all of these reasons that just go through our minds. It's easier. Like, we do want an easy life, but we also want an easy life, and we want to be able to wear the clothes and feel amazing and have the energy to go to the gym and have the glowing skin, and like, it's like, okay, so choose what you want more. Like, genuinely choose what you want more. And if you are happy to stay comfortable and just continue on, then that's okay. Like, be okay with that. That's a decision. You get to make the decision. But if you want more for yourself, just be willing to look at some of the daily habits, the behaviours. I think that the main take home from this is that it is probably going to disrupt other people, maybe. Going to cause a bit of a knee jerk if you suddenly start saying, you know, no to sitting in the canteen at lunchtime and gossiping because you know what, like, you want to go out and get your steps now, so you want to walk at lunchtime or whatever it might be. Yeah, it might upset other people, but we've got to stop living to please other people, because that's what's hijacking our results. Because if we just got a little bit better at prioritising ourselves and being okay with that, the other stuff would flow, the other stuff would feel so much easier to stick to. I'm going to give you a bonus one on the end, which is speak about your goals. Speak about your goals. I think I've spoken about this actually on a previous episode, but it's a big goal for anyone when I first start working with them. Working with a client at the moment, and I'll just share this little story and then we'll wrap up this week. But she's not where she wants to be yet. Okay, she's feeling like she's overweight. She's tried and failed a lot in the past, so she doesn't really want to speak about this new healthy way of living, because she doesn't want to put it out there in case she fails again, and she doesn't want that judgment. She doesn't want to get 6 months down the line and everyone's looking at her thinking, oh yeah, all talk no action, like, you haven't changed a bit. And I've reminded her, well, that's not going to happen. But also as well, you've got to be willing to talk about yourself. You've got to refer to yourself. You've got to identify as this healthier version of yourself. Whether you feel like you're there or not, you've got to start identifying as that woman. Otherwise, it's always just going to feel like something you're doing behind closed doors. And so it's the environment. When you put yourself in different environments, you're not even, you know, you're never in a position where you're supporting your own goals, if that makes sense. You're always putting yourself up against, you know, having to, like, exercise extreme willpower or extreme discipline, versus those around you know what you're about. They know where your boundaries lie. They know what you're striving for. Anyway, this week she was like, Nick, penny drop moment, and I cannot believe that it's taken me so long to get to this. But I was chatting with a friend at dinner the other night about needing to get in my steps, my general movement, and she's got a treadmill at home as well. Like, I am like, how are you struggling? We've got a treadmill at home. Like, just get on the treadmill of a night, of a morning, when you've got 10 minutes. It doesn't matter when you do it. It doesn't matter if it's in small increments or, you know, in one block. Like, you are making this a deal in your mind, and it's becoming sort of like a battle, and you're convincing yourself that you can't do it. Anyway, she's chatting with a friend. She decided this is going to be the night that I'm going to talk about my goals and the journey that I'm on. Little did she know, her friend was in the exact same boat. And she was like, oh. Anyway, so they had this conversation amongst themselves, which is genius, because they're now supporting each other. How mad is that as women? Like, we don't talk about the things that really matter to us, even to our closest friends, because it's the fear of judgment. Like, and it's not that we think our friends are going to judge us. We're so tired of letting ourselves down that we don't, you know, we'd rather just try that one last time to do it on my own, rather than just decide to talk about it. Anyway, so her friend has given her this thing to watch while she's on the treadmill. She's now hooked on this programme that she's watching, so she can't wait to get on the treadmill, because the non-negotiable is you only get to watch this programme when you are getting your steps in, or listen to it. Okay, so it's either when you're on an outdoor walk or you're on your treadmill this week. But it's not the steps that's been the penny drop moment. The penny drop moment has been she finally now gets that feeling that you feel afterwards. You know, that feeling of feeling accomplished, and that like surge of serotonin and happy hormones and all of the things that she's needed to have the domino effect to making the better decisions and to having this spring in a step and having the good temperament and everything else that we talk about. And she's like, that all came from me being bold enough to talk about my goals. And that's kind of how this podcast has come about for me, because I went to a networking, I got into conversation, I spoke about my goals with Steve, who is the amazing sort of like, it's not host, anchorman. Stop calling you Will Ferrell. And we just got chatting, and I was like, yeah, I want to do a podcast. And he was like, yeah, I've got a podcast, just come on mine. And I was like, oh, okay. Bear in mind, I never talk about my goals, very rarely, like my bigger goals, because the fear of me not doing them, and then I put them out there, holds me back. So I identify with this struggle just in a different area. But I also can be a product of like, okay, but when you talk about it, it happens. Here we are on my podcast. I hope that was helpful, guys. If there are any takeaways, anything that you go to implement, anything that was a penny drop, I would love to hear from you. Either, you know, drop me a DM on Instagram, put it in the comments below. Really, I cannot stress, this podcast is for you. So if there are things that you would love to talk about, or, you know, yeah, any feedback, any comments, let me know. I appreciate it all. I appreciate if you've been listening, and I will catch you all on the next one.